Future World Planner is already here. Now I just have to wait a little bit more and Formal Artina will join my team. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. JC here with another video on Disgaea RPG. I was deliberating whether or not I should make a video about Formal Valvatorez, as he isn't an absolute must-have or a super meta unit, yet it can be effective on challenging content and he is very interesting to say the least. So let's check what makes him so special. His Any Zero gives him a 25% buff to attack, defense, HP, and critical damage. This is a very nice buff, which increases his defensive capabilities from the very beginning. His Any One increases his attack and defense by 20% every turn, capping at 100%. This ability makes him good for long fights, like spar space or gimmicky stages, but it also prevents him from being a top unit, as it doesn't unlock his full potential on turn 1. His Any 5 restores 6% of his HP whenever an ally takes damage. This is another reason why he is good at long battles, but to take full advantage of this ability, you'll need good defensive equipment for your team and good defensive supporters. Last is his Any 7, which gives him a 65% skill damage buff for one turn when he has an attack buff. The damage boosting effect usually comes on a character's Any One, but in Formal Valvatorez's case, it's his last ability. The problem with this is that if you don't plan to invest any prenis into him, you probably won't get the benefit of this ability, which is very important if you want to use him as your main attacker. For skills, he has the classic cheap AoE attack in Gravity Squeeze, which increases his defense and resistance by 10% and restores some HP. His Collapse Hull is a high-cost AoE attack which increases its power the less HP he has. Usually, you wouldn't use this skill, ever, but if you're on PvP, there's a big chance you want to kill more than one enemy with high HP bars, so it's worth using on PvP. Last is his S-rank attack, Lunatic Wave. This skill increases his damage each time you use it, unleashing its full power the 4th time. This is a good skill for challenging content, but again, it's very difficult to get a good score with it. For spells, Mega Armor Break is the only notable option at level 22, but even if he needs time to reach his full potential, you'll probably want to spam his S-rank attack to increase its damage. I already mentioned how important it is to build a tanky team for Formal Valvatorez. And oddly enough, one of the best units you can pair with him is an F2P unit. Beach Edna reduces damage, supports sword equipped units, and has Mega Braveheart. If you decide to build Formal Valvatorez as a sword unit, then she's worth considering. Ayami is another notable pick, since she has a party-wide buff which gives both defense and resistance. She has a chance to cover your team from single target attacks, and she increases her defense when her HP gets lowered. Diane is another unit which gives a party-wide buff for defense and resistance and cover your team from single target attacks. She has a higher defense than Ayame, but a lower resistance. Then we have Eclair. Among all defensive supporters, she's probably the best, as she has a good damage boost in her Any 7, a big party-wide defense and resistance buff, can grant herself the cover status, and has big defensive stats. For this kind of team, Supreme Laharl is a better option than Arcadian Flown, as he gives more SP and can spam his Supreme Style to increase the party's stats, but he lacks the HP recovery from Arcadian Flown, which isn't that much of a problem since you don't want healers on your team, you want over-healers. Madoka, or any other overheal user, is an absolute must-have next to Formal Valvatorez. This kind of team wants to raise both defenses so that Formal Valvatorez can increase his stats as much as possible, while spamming his S-rank skill to increase his damage, so you'll definitely end up raising your resistance too, which means any healing skill will heal more, and in the case of overheal skills, you'll probably get the extra 50% HP in one go. For debuffers, it's better to use someone who can debuff multiple stats for more than 3 turns, so Calamity Adele is probably the best option. Unfortunately, Formal Valvatorez has multiple elements on his skills, but you only want to spam his S-rank wind attack, so you can use him next to Bright Rosalind, but she doesn't have defense increasing skills, and you will get more mileage out of her on a full wind elemental team. In fact, HGC Asagi is a better supporter for him, since she gives SP, has an overheal skill, and all of her skills are star element buffing skills, which will proc her Any One. Santa Torachico is another F2P defensive supporter which buffs both sides of the spectrum while healing the party, and she has a damage reduction ability which pairs well with this kind of team comp. Last, let's talk about equipment. Unlike other units which want to deal as much damage as fast as possible, Formal Valvatorez wants to snowball while keeping your team alive, which is why I insist on building a defensive team. For that reason, you need very specific alchemy effects. Reduce special attack damage by 6% is probably the best option if you can't afford to make multiple item sets. But if you have elixirs to spare, then consider reduced damage from monsters or humanoids by 8%. The human trait takes priority as there are more humans than monsters. You should try to put these effects on belts since HP works for both sides of the spectrum. The problem with this kind of team is that they are very susceptible to action gauge reduction and ailments, so you can use alchemy effects to prevent this, but I suggest that you go for damage reduction resistance instead and use a super fast Archangel Flown with Saint Arrow as her only skill. And that's it. I like that Formal Valvatorez retained one of his main traits in the form of HP restoration, but unfortunately, your score on challenging content depends on how fast you kill the enemy, not on how much you can last against it. Because of that, it's very difficult to see him in the top 10 of any kind of content, except PvP maybe. I hope that the developers give us a new mode that doesn't rely on killing the enemy quickly to get a good score. Maybe that way, Formal Valvatorez could become a top unit. If you like the video, share, like, subscribe. See you next time. Bye!